Welcome to the podcast, Eye for Talent, the show where we've got an eye for talent. I'm your host, Dylan, aka DJ Cereal Sauce. I'm a YouTube content creator. I'm a Twitch streamer. I'm a producer. I'm a part of the Nothing Is Anything group. I'm like their main editor. I clean the garbage for them. I do all these kinds of things. That's what I do. And joining me is TinyCactus, aka just Cactus, aka whatever kinds of names they want. I don't know. You're free to spout off names that you want. They are, as they've described to me, just an artist. They're just an artist, bro. It's not that serious. But they also do a little bit of pin-up illustrations, so don't be weird about it, all right? Be cool, brothers. Be cool. I don't know. That's really it. I had to make that very apparent right at the beginning because I don't want any of you coming in here being like, "Hey, you're talking about inappropriate stuff." Shut up. I didn't ask. They reached out to me. Don't be weird.
Just don't be weird.
Yeah, don't be weird about it, brother. Be cool. Are you ready, man?
Yeah.
You're ready? All right, cool. We're just gonna cut the shit. We're just gonna go, man. We're gonna start. We're gonna start right at the beginning. I mean, like how, like all people, you got inspired by something when you were probably a youngster. But how did you get started on drawing in the first place? Just as a baseline.
Well, I mean, depends on what you want to believe. My dad is an artist, so it could be genetics. But
I don't know if that's real.
I don't know if that's real. But one of the stories my mom told me when I was really young, I just started drawing on a wall, and she couldn't really give me shit for it because it was decent. It was pretty good. And ever since then, she brought me back. Like, she used to work as an assistant to an accountant, and she would bring me back all like the paper they would recycle because it just had random numbers and stuff, and I would just draw on the back. And I had stacks and stacks of it, and ever since then, I've just always drawn.
That's the most latchkey kid ass start. You're like I was a little bit of a troublemaker. You hear, and so I was like, I don't have any paper. My school's not giving me any. I'm still like below the age of 10, probably.
Yep.
To the wall it is.
It's a nice white wall. That's a canvas. Let's go.
Did you ever did you do this with marker or with crayons or with something else? What did you put on the wall?
I'm pretty sure it was it was just a nice mixed media piece with whatever was in my, you know those old, they were really crappy, but it was like a little plastic box.
Plastic box, yes.
Yeah, the box with like the row of markers and the row of this and the row of paint, and it was just. I have like 4 of those, and I'm pretty sure it was a mix of whatever I had left over in those.
Yeah, that's I've seen a lot of memes that are always like, children of artists, or sorry, it's like what the hell? It's like those who learned they wanted to be an artist from an early age. What kind of memories does this strike to when they open up that they send a picture of that and it just like strikes fear in the hearts of everyone?
I only just recently learned that you're supposed to add water to the markers to make them work.
Yeah, I heard something about that, and I was like, that seems rather unintuitive, and not just for
like
kids.
I don't remember instructions or anything like that came with those. Yeah, I don't think I would have read them anyways, but
yeah, it's like it's not intuitive for somebody at the age of 6. It's not intuitive for somebody at the age of 10, and clearly it's not obvious for parents the age 35.
No, they just give it to you, like, go have fun, and then you get the markers, and you're like, oh, look at these, ew.
They don't work.
They don't work.
I
just assumed they were always dried up from, sitting on the shelf forever.
Did you buy this shit used? Was this from the DI?
Yeah.
So I guess
never too old to learn.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that means that if you ever had kids, you'd be a better parent and give it to them with a cup of water.
They would have nice markers.
Well, yeah, I guess if you wanted to be a good parent to a child artist, you probably wouldn't give them those. But if you're tight on a budget, you're like, here's these and here's some water.
This is ones you can run it through the mud. Just I'll get you Copics once we're starting to get a little bit better on that.
Yeah, once you show progress.
Gotta work it up.
But that was actually the other question I was going to ask is, like, did they ever, like, take it? Did they ever, like, wash it off of the wall? Or did they just say, fuck it, you just leave it there?
Unfortunately, eventually we had to because it was a rent place, so we had to
Oh.
paint over it.
Yeah, that'll do it. That's a tragedy. I think the closest
would
thing
be
that
nice.
exists in I think the closest thing that exists in my house is there's like some pencil markings on one of the door frames for measuring how tall I was between the ages
Yeah.
of 2 and like 10.
Oh, me and my brother had that at some point, but I hit a height and I stopped growing and he kept growing and it was unfair.
That's stupid. It's effective though.
It is
I'm trying to think,
effective.
when did I? No, I was gonna try and psycho in. I was like, when did I stop growing? It's like by the time I stopped growing, my parents stopped. Like parents had stopped paying attention to that way before.
Yeah, it's definitely like a younger, when it's more weed-like and growing.
Yeah, it probably stops at like the age of 12, probably maybe a little earlier if I had to guess. But that's not
You're
important.
almost a teenager now.
Yeah, yeah. You're going into middle school. You can measure your own damn height.
Yeah, right? You know how to do it.
Yeah. It's like they probably like do that like for you in like middle school. And like I got my height measured when I had to take a physical exam before taking debate in high school, so
What does height have to do with debating?
Well, no, it doesn't. That was just a thing that they were measuring while I was getting my physical exam done.
Oh, okay.
That was when I learned that I had been 165 pounds for like 4 years. Maybe even longer. It was impressive. That's not about that. So to be quite honest with you, I've seen a few pieces of art that you have created via retweets from other people on Twitter and maybe a little bit within the Discord that we both exist in. Maybe a little too much. So I know what I'm getting myself into. Other people might not, but what is your favorite piece of like content or media or art or anything that you've like made? Or like the one that you're most proud of, whether or not it's something that you have out publicly somewhere, whether it's something you have in a DM with a friend, whether it's something you keep to yourself because you're like, no one needs to see this.
Like a lot of pieces come to mind. I don't think I like a lot of pieces that I've done for different reasons. Like every now and then I will have a favorite piece that I've done. My most recent favorite piece is one I can't share yet because it is for Maple's debut.
Spoiler alert.
But I think with each, like every time I do like a really big piece, it becomes my favorite piece because I've learned so much from the last pieces that I can put into it, or I've digested pieces from other artists and pick up little things that I try and add in to just grow what I can do. So it's like there's pieces I look back on and I still love. There's some that I'd prefer never saw the light of day again. But it's hard to like have one piece that just stays my favorite because I keep growing and I keep learning new things and it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I imagine, especially within the realms of like you're working on a bunch of different things all the time. The only time you can pin something down as being your favorite is if it, like the way that I look at it is from the perspective of somebody who like makes music across a large variety of genres, where it's like my favorite piece that I have made is one that probably coincides most with whatever kind of music that I'm into. So it's like for you, I would imagine it could potentially be like whatever style of art I'm working on or something. It's either going to be that most recent piece that I'm currently working on that's my favorite, or it's a piece that is like kind of similar to it that I'm kind of in the mood to be working on. That's my favorite from the past.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very similar to that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's fair. This is a question that I would have never been able to ask had it not been for our DMs. You mentioned something called Upgrade Chat, and I need to know what the differences are between Upgrade Chat and Patreon, and why you decide to use Upgrade Chat instead of Patreon, or maybe more than Patreon, since it sounds like you do a little bit of both.
Yeah, I do have a little Patreon just because Patreon is a lot easier to like it's a lot easier to market. And it does have safeties more for the client. It's got like the website where you see the art, you've got, all the all the artists you can follow, it's all put into one nice bundle bill and stuff like that. But they do take a large chunk. And unfortunately, they listen to probably the few like top creators, which have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of patrons, where I'm definitely not in that bracket. And they've made a lot of changes to the website that I just are not helpful. They've gotten rid of things that I really liked and added things that are extremely frustrating. One of the things being their Discord bot is so horribly maintained. And it is something that I have seen across all artists that have to deal with Patreon. A lot of the times it doesn't remove roles when people leave, so they still, get access to everything, or it doesn't give roles when people join. Or it takes away roles from people that have nothing to do with it because it wants to, and it's very frustrating. Upgrade Chat is basically completely in-house with Discord. It's the same kind of thing. Like I still offer the same tiers and stuff. Actually, Upgrade Chat has a bit more because I try and get people a little bit to go to that, because they take far less of a cut. So I do end up making more money from it. It doesn't have like a website or anything, so it's completely in-house with Discord. So I have a channel.
Oh,
I told them not to call me.
Oh no.
It has like, I have a channel in Discord that has like all the illustrations that I do each month, and I give out the art packs in-house. And so everything is centralized into Discord. It doesn't have the whole website and everything like that. So it's a little bit different, but that's also a little bit harder to market because you have to be in the Discord.
Yeah, and it also, because it's not as big of a platform, you don't have the ability, like, it's not, from an outsider's perspective, it's not as trustworthy. People are like, what the hell is this website? What is this for?
Yeah, and that's why I still and probably will keep Patreon, because some people join in through Patreon and they want to stay, and they like the art, they like the community, and then they go, oh, okay, so there's this other platform. I still get everything, if not a little bit more, because some of my art tiers are only on Upgrade Chat. So if they want to join one of the art tiers, they have to switch over.
Right, yeah, but at the very least, you have the Patreon utility to like get them in.
Yeah. So it gets the foot in the door, and a lot of people do switch over after a month or two. Some people just, want to dip their toes in the water, and then they go about and do whatever they want. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, yeah.
You were mentioning the Patreon bot, and I was like, what the hell are they talking about? And then I was like, oh yeah, there's a Discord that I'm in where the guy has a chat that's for people who are a part of the Patreon. And I swear to God, people will be like, I've been on this Minecraft server for 6 months and I didn't even realize that I wasn't even a part of the Patreon. And he's like, oh, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. It is horribly maintained. It is my nemesis when it comes to bots. Upgrade Chat is so nice. It does what I ask, and it's really on top with if people change their tiers or remove or come in, it's right on the ball. And Patreon bot is just rolling around in a dark room doing its thing.
It is just bad.
It is just bad. It's to the point where now I have it set for one completely separate role when somebody joins in, and then if I see that in the log, then I go in and add the other roles manually.
Oh yeah, you're like, I'm not letting this bot take care of anything because it's proven that it's incapable.
No. And then when I see somebody leave, I go in and I remove the roles manually.
Yeah, but you're paying very close attention to that, and you at least have
and I have some awesome people that help. I have my one friend Cosmic who does a lot of back end stuff when it comes to like adding and removing supporters and giving me a list, which is so nice.
Shouts out Cosmic, the IT manager for TinyCactus's Discord. That's always fun. Well, the Patreon bot's not fun, but
no.
you said they have a spreadsheet.
It's a necessary evil. Yeah, she keeps spreadsheets so that I know, like, the person, if their like their name on Patreon is different from their Discord username, when they joined, what tier they joined. Like, she is on the ball, and I appreciate her so much.
Hell yeah, dude, that's sick. Okay, this is another question that kind of came out of our DM conversation, and I didn't even realize. What other platforms are you like attempting to try and get into to utilize as a means of increasing your exposure, or like promoting / advertising your services?
I am on like a various like art sites like Itaku and Inkblot and stuff, but the hard part about them is it is a gallery site for artists. And yes, artists do get commissions from other artists, and that's awesome, but the bulk of the fish that I'm trying to catch are on things like Twitter, and I've been scared to do it up until now, but places like Twitch. And I want to try and fish out of that pond a little bit and see if I can find a bit more audience, as well as play games sometimes, which is nice.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to name drop Twitch because I was like everybody's hyped for the Tiny Cactus Twitch debut.
I'm terrified but excited.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. I mean, I can't
Soon,
imagine
hopefully.
I mean, I can't imagine it to be like any worse than any other like art streamer, outside of the fact that you have to abide by Twitch's TOS.
Yeah, and I do have like my little workaround is I have a Picardo, which is another art streaming site that allows the other side of art that I will also be streaming on when that is necessary.
Fair enough. So I was having to multitask right as that was happening, but I also noticed that you changed the name on the Twitch page. I don't remember what it was before.
It was tiny__cactus because TinyCactus and tiny_cactus were both taken, but a lot of people didn't realize it was 2 underscores.
So it's really hard to find you.
It was hard to find, and then I was just like, well, my Patreon, my Twitter, I might as well just all keep it to 1 to make it just that much easier for myself and for everybody else.
Yeah, and if you're going to add
Tiny Cactus art everywhere.
Yeah, and if you're going to add any additional little pieces, limit it to like 1 per consecutive use of that character, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like this is the thing that I noticed when I was doing an edit for a Twitch VOD for a specific somebody. One of the people had gifted them a sub. It's Queen Lolly, but their name is spelled with 2 uppercase I's.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if they have a Twitch page, but if they do, that's gonna be really fucking hard to find if you try and search it.
I noticed that too with something like that, like a sub. I was like, oh, those are I's, not L's.
This is making me uncomfortable. I don't like this. I saw that and I was in a fit of rage. I was like, why did you do that?
I mean, I assume Queen Lolly was taken, and I mean, it is a clever workaround, but it is going to be annoying one day.
Yeah, it's I think it's a lot easier to deal with when you don't have to worry about Twitch being very specific to the way you have to spell things. Or if you it doesn't matter. I don't know where I was going with that. So this is interesting because I think in a weird way you and me kind of exist in a similar state relative. So a lot of the things that I might be referencing here will have something to do with the Something Stupid community. And the way that I look at it is like, to a certain degree, you and me have a similar relation to like the people in there, both the members of the community Discord as well as, the 7 deadly sins, as I referred to them one time.
I like that.
Yeah, Maple liked it as well when I brought it up. It was pretty funny. I'm mad that they didn't take the term yet, but they'll come around. But no, the way that I look at it is like we kind of have like a similar relation with the people in terms of the I don't know, just like the relation to the things that we do to provide for these other people. So I'm curious as to what in general it looks like when you try and collaborate with another artist, whether it's somebody who's kind of more in-groupy, whether it's somebody who's a part of that community, or whether it's, somebody else who makes content who you happen to be very close with.
I honestly, I love collaborating, especially like when it's somebody who isn't so much of an artist. You naturally have more kind of control in the artistic endeavor of it, just because you are the artist. But when I get to collaborate with a different artist, whether like no matter like if it's Maple or if it's my friend Kikino, who is an amazing artist, it's so much fun to work together and even to like, I don't want to say critique, but there is some like, hey, try this, or I would think like it would be a little bit better if we went with this color scheme or tried this kind of lighting and stuff like that, because you can get in your vibe with things and just as it as you're used to going, and then having somebody else who is also used to steering the ship being like, no, let's try this route instead, is both anxiety inducing, but a lot of the time super rewarding. And I've learned so much by just working with somebody else who is an artist.
Yeah. Honestly, like, it's just, in general, it's cool to be able to work with somebody who you either know does stuff at least in a slightly different way that you do, or working with somebody who you don't know how they do things. And it's interesting to just see like how the two minds come together to come up with something. Like
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
a quick example is one of my friends in my little group of people. He recently edited his first video for our group channel, and I've been editing videos since 2019, kind of on and off. And after watching the one video that he made for the channel, I like learned a few things about how to properly like stretch the amount of content that you have. And like using some of the things that he did on this video, I was able to turn one recording that we did into 2 videos. So it's like, even when you think that you know everything, somebody could come in and do something for the
Yeah.
first time and show you that there's a different way to do things, or potentially reignite an old way that you were doing things that may come to be useful.
No, absolutely. There's always bigger fish. There's always somebody who knows more or just knows a different way of going about. Like, I'm going through this 12-step process and they're just like, hey, I've cut this down into 6 and it's so much easier.
Yeah.
I love learning.
Yeah. Learning isn't like, learning in general is a rewarding thing to do no matter what. But learning as
Yeah.
a person who is constantly making things is such an exciting time, because then you think, oh, how could I have utilized this in previous works that I did? Or,
Yep.
how can I better suit what's going on here to fit my MO and how I do things?
Yeah. If I knew this before, the lighting in this one piece would have been so much better. I would have done it completely different. I have a lot of those thoughts.
Yeah, and it's fun. That's what, like, that's like 30% of the spark of making something, is realizing that you were doing something in an improper way or an inefficient way, and then being like, this is how I'm going to do it better.
Yeah, it's like, I can't wait for the next piece I'm going to work on because I'm going to do it this way and it's going to be so much nicer.
Exactly. It's awesome. Do you take any kind of inspiration from other things that you're interested in? Other groups of people that you hang out with, other, content creators that you see? Do you take inspiration from miscellaneous things you see on the internet, or can you truthfully say that you are a person who comes up with a lot of original ideas?
No, I could not say that. I take in everything from everywhere that I possibly can. Video games I play, other artists, other, just other artists in the sense of like beyond just drawing. Nature, I mean, that's probably the number one. But I mean, I like to think that I take ideas and then I add my touch and make them unique in their combination. Like, I'm not the first person to make an alien race, but I'm the first person to make my alien race. And it's got a few little pieces that I've seen, some ideas that just happen to click together, some that came out of my head that probably came from something, that I saw years ago and just stuck around and bounced around in my head.
Yes.
But no, I have put my cactus touch on things that are stuff that I take in from everywhere.
Yeah. It's like, who would have guessed, if you go out and you experience a new medium, the things that you create will look like the medium that you experienced, but if you were the one that was making it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that was actually a really interesting conversation that me and my friends had. the thing we were talking about is concerning, something that I know a lot of artists are very upset about, and for good reason. But we were talking about this idea that, like, if you fed an AI, because that's where we're going with this, there we were like, if you fed an AI the art of exclusively one artist, what would happen? Would it just attempt to try and be a copy of that artist, or would it eventually diverge away from that path and end up making something completely different that still looks like that artist created it? And it got into this whole conversation about how, like, humans are not original as much as we like to think we are, because we take inspiration from literally everything. The originality comes out of our personal way of wanting to portray a feeling, or, a tree, or like anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's like it's such eggshells around AI. I mean, I'm not a fan of it just taken art. Like, you see pictures that have watermarks that are clearly there and have been, smudged and stuff like that, and or seeing artists who have passed away, their work being fed into it, and it's like, oh well, now you can get their art even though they're dead. And it's like, okay, well that's a little much. But to say that, humans, we don't do the same thing in an organic way is not truthful. Because there are other artists' art that I see and I'm just like, I really like how you shaded that. I'm going to try that. Or I like how you do your lines. I'm going to try that. Which is kind of what you're doing with AI, with a non-organic component to it.
Yeah, that was another portion of the conversation that we got into, where it's like, if you fed all of the AI, if you fed all of the art from a specific artist into AI, it wouldn't necessarily be able to continue on its legacy, because it wouldn't be able to fully understand the lived experiences of the person before they passed, or even if they were still alive, what they would be experiencing. It basically just exists to take in a key understanding of what something is and try and deviate off of it. But that's not,
It's not the same. There is a very human component to art that, I mean, that's why it's persisted for the millennia
ever.
that we've been, since the first master, the caveman, drawing his little fat buffalo on the wall. Like, it's, and you can't turn around anywhere without seeing art. Any of those, I mean, from the obvious examples of quite literally illustrations and paintings to movies to even like the little things like your logos for a company. That's an artist had to make that,
Yeah.
a graphic artist. To how like architects are just artists that draw buildings.
Yeah.
Like, to the
What
homes
the
we
hell was
live
his
in.
name? Gary something or other, the guy who made all the Disney concert halls out of balls of foil. What the fuck is his name? Frank
I do not
Gehry?
know, but that sounds really cool.
I think Frank Gehry is who I'm thinking of. Um,
I would be very sad to see a world with, I mean, as an artist, very sad, but just in general, be very sad to see a world without that human component to art, because I mean, a lot goes into it. A lot of like, and I hear it from a lot of artists who put or do like really big paintings. Like, there's a piece of yourself in that art. There are hours, if not an hours, of your life. There's stresses, there's anxieties, there's hopes, there's joy, there's passion, all wrapped up into that picture, no matter what it is.
yeah. Ultimately, it's not taking over. Like, I'm looking at this from the perspective of somebody who is also having their medium oversaturated with AI, which is the fact that, like, AI, despite the powers that it has, it still like sucks at a lot of things.
It
And
still needs humans to function
yeah,
too,
yeah,
and it's just yeah.
yeah, and ultimately there are still generations that exist that can continue to pass on the appreciation for the human element that is put into art. And there's going to be generations moving forward that are going to be just like you, that get a certain sense of catharsis out of making something with your goddamn hands.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be those nasty rebel human artists. It's I think it's part of human nature to, like, if you see a blank space, to doodle something if that's what you want to do.
Well, I mean, yeah, humans for the history of forever have loved just having fun with things, and art is no
Yeah.
different. So there's no reason why that it would just get taken over just because AI has the power to produce a similar end result, because it's not about the end result for a lot of people.
No,
And that's fine.
it's the journey.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to look at the end result, but that is like a culmination of hours. I mean, generally speaking.
Yeah, depending on who you are.
Like, there are even some pieces where I look back and I can remember, like, what I was doing at the time, like what I was watching as background noise at the time, or what kind of day I had during the final bits or at certain point of the picture.
Yeah, or you're like, I knew what I took inspiration from at the moment of this happening. So that it's always,
Yeah.
It's never gonna stop. The fuck?
No, I'm not gonna start waving the panic flag.
Just a mild frustration flag.
It is. It's annoying.
What does the mild frustration flag look like? Because there's the surrender flag, which is all white. There's like an ally flag, which is like a white with a heart on it. What does the frustration flag look like?
Probably like that caution, I've got anxiety yellow. Just like this, I've got feelings right now, and they're very big in a little package.
They're very big, and I don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was imagining like just a white flag with like the angry emoji on it, or even the angry emoticon
that
on
would
it.
work too. Yeah, just upset. I am upset.
Yeah. Hard left turn. Okay, when you made the change, or I guess the shift, or maybe the addition, whatever you want to call it, from safe for work stuff to not safe for work stuff, was it primarily because of the money? Did you realize that you had the ability to draw stuff like this, and you were like, I'm going to capitalize because, if I'm good at it, I'm going to upload it? Or was it both? Was it neither? Was it some other stuff?
It was definitely the money. I was struggling. I was drawing people's avatars on Gaia Online for like pittances. And I actually had a friend who was living, my mom was kind of like fostering him for a little bit, who was a furry, and I did not know what furries were. And he was just like, oh, you like to draw, right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, you draw really good. And I was like, oh, thank you. He's like, have you ever drawn a furry before? And I was like, I've drawn many animals before. He's like, no, a furry.
No.
And that opened a whole corner of the internet that I had completely passed by and had no knowledge of.
How did you feel about discovering that whole thing? Like, what? Well,
I mean, I loved the idea of anthropomorphic animals. I thought that was like really cool. And, and there is a side to furries that everybody is immediately kind of got that question mark or exclamation point about.
Yeah.
Which eventually, like, I started off doing safe for work art, and I started to get even more attention just with that. But then, I had a few people that were like, hey, have you ever drawn the naughty before? And I was like, no. No, I have not. I was like, well, if you wanted to do it, I would pay you
the big bucks.
The big bucks for it. And it was like, oh, I like to eat. Eating is nice, and money and food costs money. I mean, I could try. And then it was it was a very slippery slope, all downhill from there.
Just downhill from there.
I still remember that first picture that I did, and it is horrible. It is just like so bad.
You're just like, this sucks.
I had no idea. Like, it is like what people don't take into account with drawing that stuff is drawing two people in a very close proximity to each other, like with limbs overlapping and underlapping. That is really hard to do.
Because you're basically making 3D, well, not 3D adjacent.
But you have to think in a like, I had always just drawn, like people standing or sitting or something like that. Foreshortening was very, very far and few in between at the time. And then to learn how to do that and make it believable. And I mean, at the time, my anatomy wasn't anywhere, but to do that process, and just from that point, just from the anatomical point of view, was so hard. But like, oh no, their knee can't be there. That'd be in this person's rib cage. Like, just to think about that, like they may not even see that knee, but and like it is.
It's the implication
like,
of the knee that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that person's arm's coming out of their side. It's like, no, they're laying on it like this so that the top, it is like, kudos. I had to learn, like, I had to relearn art once I started doing that.
So what I've come to understand from this is the two artists that I've now interviewed, you and Babbitt, anatomy is a bitch.
It is. And there are certain things that you can fib with the anatomy. You can kind of glaze over with it, and more or less it's just like, ooh, pretty picture, very good.
Yeah.
But if there is, because there are some photographs that I've seen of human beings that it was a take, and if I drew that, you would be like, this is horrible anatomy. This is absolutely wrong. This is not possible in life. But because it's a picture, you're just like, it's a picture. It had to have happened.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those things where it's like, if so there's a thing that gets thrown around a lot that's like sound designers, if they are good at their job, never get talked about. It's only when they do a bad job that you can start pointing out everything. And that's the same kind of thing with anatomy, where it's like, no one gives a shit about your anatomy and no one's paying attention to it until something doesn't look right.
Yeah. I mean, you'll see artists, because we know the struggle. So it's just like, I really like how you painted this knee. That looks so nice. And it's so weird, but like, I hear that more often than not. It's very little pointed things like, okay, this isn't something I've commented about, but the line of this butt cheek is so realistic. I am shook. And it's just like, oh, thank you. But then, the other hand is just like, what is this leg doing? Where is it coming from? How is it joined?
Who put that leg there?
Who put that leg there? Fire them.
And then you realize you're like, wait, I put that leg there.
Yeah.
Like, shit.
Oh, right. I guess that's not where it would connect, is it?
You're like, you have to like do. This is gonna get into weird territory. You have to like pose in front of a mirror and look at yourself, and you're like, oh, so that's where that's where their leg needs to be, because if I was in that spot, that's where my leg would be.
Absolutely. The amount of times I take pictures of myself in a pose, or my husband in a pose, or like I have to go through Reddit or Pinterest or something to find this particular, like, how does this leg look in this position? And I'm not that bendy or have a selfie stick, so I can't do it myself. So I have to figure this out, because I can't just. And it's gotten easier over time the more you do it, especially because I went to college for video game development, so I had to learn 3D modeling. And
you are everything that 8-year-old me wanted to be. Like, I need you to know
my God.
that.
I wish that I could say it has been of use, but that video game development degree has literally just been a money sink, except for what I've learned from it, which has led to this. But all my knowledge now, program-wise, is that industry changes yearly.
Yeah.
And I graduated in 2013. Almost everything I learned is not available now. But
yeah, seems about
right.
right.
I did learn so much being learning 3D modeling, and it gave me a huge ability to see things in a 3D space. So that has helped so much in my art. There is definitely a huge leap from before I started college and after I started college when it came to anatomy, came to posing, being able to use things in a 3D space in an image, and just seeing it better, like knowing. It's really hard to put into words, but it being able to think 3D in a 2D space has helped me significantly when it comes to art.
Yeah, like things become intuitive. You're like, this makes sense.
Yeah, and it becomes easier the more you do it. People are like, oh, how'd you learn how to do this? And it's like, I have been drawing just digitally since 2006. Like, I have invested essentially my life at this point into this. Like, I wish, I mean, there is kind of an easy button right now, but I wish there was just an easy way for me to be like, click into my head, download the information, go for it.
Yeah.
Have fun.
They're like, how did you get so good at this? And you're like, allow me to show you. And then you go all the way up through your history. You're like, this is the first thing I did. And they look at the timestamp. They're like, 2006. And you're like, yep.
Yeah, that was when I got my first tablet. My mom was like, oh, good. No more money on paper.
Was paper that expensive then? Like,
no, just I would go through a lot of it. And I had like some 30 sketchbooks in my closet.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Just because, like, I needed to draw, and sometimes I'd quit halfway and be like, no, I have a new idea. And unfortunately, with digital, I could just create a new canvas, and it cost me literally nothing but tiny bytes of space.
Yeah. That makes sense. Let's see here. This is my favorite question. Everybody knows what's about to come here. Somebody who looks in on what you do, or, from an outsider's perspective, what is something you've spent a lot of money on that they would look at that and they'd be like, are you serious?
It's got to be the tablet. I went from a little, like, $200 tablet to one that is over $1,000. Yeah. And I love it.
Sounds about right.
I am already eyeing one that is far more than that.
How expensive can a banana cost, Michael? $10?
Yeah.
Unironically, how expensive can a tablet get, though? Like, what the fuck?
They can get up. Like, there's a huge thing with brand. I mean, if you want to get a Wacom or Wacom or however you say it, the Cintiqs are money. I personally like Huon, or I've heard so many ways people say it. I think it's Huon.
Did you say for a lot of British people say it?
No, I've heard like Huion. So I don't know.
Yeah, we need to go
it's
talk
one
to
of those
somebody
things
who
where you
speaks
read a book
Chinese.
And then somebody else says it, and it's like, have I been saying that wrong in my brain the entire time?
You respect the language it came from. How does it sound in Chinese? That's how you pronounce it. We'll figure that out later.
Yeah, right? If somebody could tell me how they say that, then I would quickly, that's where it came from. But, like, size is a count, like, how big do you, like, I mean, some people use Apple iPads, and those are just, expensive, period.
Yes.
And I need a whole screen. And I want a bigger one because sometimes I feel constricted in this little space that I'm drawing, which is already like 2 times the size of an iPad. So I do not understand how that happens or how they do work on that. But, to each their own. Everybody has their own tools.
Yeah. You're doing large strokes with your...
It's like, Like, no, I need a stroke, a full arm stroke.
Yeah, enough to just like crank your arm all the way back, and you're like, all right, we're good.
But with the tablet comes the PC that can run it, and all those glorious bits and bobs. So that kind of all buttoned up.
Yeah, that could technically basically just be like your entire setup to get shit done.
But my thought on it, like, it's even with then there's the program and stuff like that. But my thought is, like, a lot of these things are one-time buy. Like, I buy my PC, that gets upgraded like every few years or whatever.
Yeah.
Everything gets upgraded every few years. But if I were a physical artist, like, you got to buy each canvas or each sketchbook or each what have you. You got to buy all the paint or all the markers, all the pencil crayons constantly as you work through it. My palette never runs out of color. And I can be so much more picky with the colors.
Yeah. And you also have the ability to, like, well, I guess both artists have the capability to do this, but in your case, if your only limitation is your storage space, one, you can just go get storage space for a very, very small amount of money.
Yeah.
From things like OneDrive and Google Drive and whatever. But then also you just have like places, like if you're the creator of your art and you have a profile where you're uploading it, you also have that space as a place to store your art because like 99% of the time you can just retrieve it back when you need it.
Yeah. And that has actually come in handy when your hard drive gets worm virused and is completely emptied.
Ow, that's rough.
Yeah. That's why I don't let friends download things on my computer anymore.
These fuckers. Like I gave you were allowed one thing and you managed to ruin everything. You prick.
No, I lost everything from I think 2008 and below. So all my like first bits of art and stuff like that was all gone. And then I actually have a friend named Volp who was we weren't friends then, but he was a fan and he would save a lot of my art on his hard drive. And when we became friends, he learned of it and he was like, I have a folder of your art.
You're like, what?
With tons of stuff from back then. And I was like, you what? And he sent me the folder and it's like, I haven't seen these pieces I haven't seen them in so long. And I am forever grateful for him storing my art for me.
Yeah, that's sick. Because he seems like he's smart enough to, well, I shouldn't say he's smart enough to not do this, but it sounds like he's not letting anybody touch his computer to let that happen.
Yeah, you know? I think so. I'm pretty sure.
You try to download Fallout on my computer and you've made me lose all of my work for 2 years, you piece of shit.
I think it was like some stupid Flash game too. They were just bored and on my computer and downloaded a Flash game and then I couldn't log in anymore once they left. And it was just like, oh, very good.
That's fucked up.
I remember that was a Depression era right there.
Yeah, your Great Depression era was around, well, I was going to say it was around the time of the Great Recession, but that's not no. That was just the time period in which you lost your stuff.
But I kept going. I didn't let it beat me. Kept drawing. Just, had new pictures to do. And then eventually, I mean, I didn't get everything back, but I did get a nice enough chunk that it was just like, oh yeah.
You're like, I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I have some images from then. I can see how much I've grown from then. And that's really all it's going to be. It's not like those pieces can be my spotlight images anymore.
Yeah, they're like a reference of the era that you used to be in.
A personal like connection to them that it's just like, oh, they're gone. That's sad.
You're like, yeah, no, it's fine. I swear, it's break down a little bit. And you're like, yeah, but
little pieces of my soul. That's all.
Just a little bit. All right. This so how much of your art comes from like if you had to say like a percentage potentially, how much of your art do you think comes from people directly commissioning you or you offering to commission for somebody if they're willing to pay you, which I don't know if that's that sounds like a non-courteous thing to do, but whatever. How much of your art comes from that and how much of it comes from you just being like, fuck it, I'm going to do the thing, and then you just do it?
Before I started Patreon, I pretty much almost 100% of my work was commissions. It was just I couldn't spend the time to draw for myself because that could be time I am making money to go to bills or food or what have you. But then my friend showed me Patreon and I took that plunge and then people were just like, yeah, I just want to see what you draw. Like it doesn't have to, I would like to commission you, but I just want to see your stuff and what you want to draw and your OCs. And it was opened a whole new world. Now it's probably about 50-50.
I see. Okay. Yeah. I realized what you were talking about. There's people directly paying you to make something for them. And then there's people paying to see a collection of stuff that you have.
Yeah, it allowed me to like be able to draw my OCs and which I learn a lot more with pictures for myself because I can take
as much time
leaps that too. I can take, like this may not turn out great, but I don't want to do that on an artwork that somebody has commissioned me to do.
Yeah, because you're working with their time, your time and their money.
Yeah. So being able to, I have grown tremendously because I've been able to take those leaps and be like, okay, this is going somewhere. Or you know what? We're going to put a pin in that. That's not working. That didn't turn out so good.
Yeah.
And that has helped me grow as an artist tremendously over these, I think 4 years now that I've had a Patreon.
Oh, nice. And if I had to guess, all the time that you spend being able to work for yourself or for a passion project also enables you to just be better for future commissions that come to you.
Because everything I learn on my art and all this stuff I absolutely put into commissions. I have learned these tools. You have now seen you have seen an image where I've used these tools, and a lot of the time people are like, I would like this, but my person, please. And it's like, yes, I can do that because I know how to now, and I'm not going to risk your money on it.
Yeah, it's no longer a risk, it's a strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, to a certain degree, it's like to a certain degree it kind of opens up your range, I guess. So there's a potential that it attracts more people in because, say, you learned how to. I don't really know a whole lot about art, but I imagine there's like big leaps that you've taken for your personal projects that have then allowed you to metaphorically expand your portfolio to potentially increase your outreach of people looking for a specific style or a specific thing that you have recently learned how to do.
Absolutely. Like before, I had kind of one style. I had one kind of shaded, nicely kind of rendered art, and then this allowed me to branch into cell shaded just to try something new. And people were like, I like this, I would like to get a commission of this. And then I started doing these really really rough sketches, but I threw color on them, threw some basic lighting on them to use them as thumbnails for what would be illustrations down the road. But people were like, hey, I mean, I know it's a sketch and all, but I kind of like this.
Like the kind
It's
of
quick
rough,
to do.
unrefined look of a
Yeah,
piece.
but some people, like, you want like a whole beautiful image, but sometimes you just got an idea and you just want to see it. You know, it doesn't have to be completely polished. It's just like something you want to see in the world, not in your brain anymore.
Yeah, and so you don't forget about it.
That opened up sketches, which I was never comfortable with before, because my sketches were super messy and weird, and it looked much better once I finished the line art. But this helped me refine my sketches into something that people are like, oh, I like this. I really like this. And then furthering down the line, it has also made my pathway towards big illustrations a lot easier and a lot more manageable to do as commissions. Because before, they would take me, out like days, if not weeks, to do. Now, because of me learning this process through my own art, I've condensed it down and learned tips and tricks and ways to do things a bit quicker, that I can now offer them as feasible commissions, versus them being like, well, this is going to take me like 30 hours to do, to even remotely get to a living wage that is not going to be cheap.
Yeah. And then another way that I like to think about it is, like, I'm a big fan of multi-purposing content. So in a weird way, if you release a sketch out there, like, that's another piece of something that people get to look at and potentially get hyped for. Like, it's like a hype drop for whatever's coming out next.
It really is. I have a pile of these thumbnails because I just went crazy with them. They're so quick to do. I got ideas out of my head that had just been bouncing around in there, and I've lost so many ideas from just not having the time to like fully illustrate them. But now I can knock them out in these thumbnails. So I've got piles of these thumbnails that I share with I share everything with supporters, but I got all these piles of thumbnails. They're like, why don't you post them on Twitter? I was like, well, they're just thumbnails. They're not really like good or polished or anything like that. It's like, I don't care. Post it on Twitter.
For a thumbnail, for a sketch, they look good. Like,
but it's still just, it's an idea.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I was like, all right, fine, I'll post one or two on Twitter, and they did so good that it actually kind of hurt when some of my other pieces didn't do that good that I've spent hours on. But at the same time, people were like, oh, I love this idea.
Like, the Twitter algorithm is failing me. This is fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. But just to see them, and then people like, I did one, I got to do an illustration out of one of the thumbnails, and somebody commented like, oh, I saw the thumbnail and I love that, but I love this finished piece. And it's just like, oh, my heart, thank you.
Yeah, it's cool.
It feels so good inside.
Yeah, despite what some
people think. And they have definitely,
like that.
I mean, with the Twitter, you got to post. No matter what, you got to post. And, posting the same 5 images, like, okay, but now I've got like a backup of 30 images that I can rotate through and stuff like that and continuously post. And I'm only adding more to them all the time.
Yeah.
So that helps with that. And I probably gained like a significant number of followers since just posting these thumbnails.
Yeah, it works. I don't get the
behind
science
it. And that's what I try and tell some of my friends. Yeah, they're like, oh, Twitter sucks. I can't get anything to stick. And it's like, well, hon, you only post once a month.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
need to,
What?
like, you gotta play the game by the rules, otherwise you ain't gonna get very far.
Yeah, and that's the case with any social media. But
It really is.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I have learned a lot through this that has helped me put it to pay back by giving or using what I've learned as commissions.
yeah. No, it's a smart way to go. So that was a pretty in depth, detailed way that you're able to. I mean, you kind of just like you obviously put care and thought into the things that you make, but sometimes it's like, yeah, fuck it, let's just see how people react to this thing that I make,
Yeah,
which
like
seems
sometimes I have an
to
idea and it doesn't work out.
yeah.
Doesn't get much traction or like in the polls and stuff because people vote every month on which illustration, which thumbnail they would like to see as an illustration. Some I think would do fantastic, flop. And some that I were just like, here's a scribble, throw some colors, throw light on it, and people start foaming at the mouth for it. I cannot read people when it comes to this art, but it does let me know kind of directions to take and stuff like that. And it has helped so much.
Right, yeah. And the cool thing about all of this is that it helps you kind of just, depending on how much time you put into the art itself, it helps you kind of just spit ideas out of there. So this makes me wonder, and this is also making me realize I need to rephrase this question because it's stupid. The question is, do you experience writer's block? But I know the answer is yes, because everybody experiences writer block. But I'm curious how it affects you, because you seem to be pretty good at just kind of taking shots in the dark and just, if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, whatever, I might come back to it if it comes up again. So like, what does that look like for you and how do you get over it?
Artist block is, or just, yeah, that creative block is so annoying, but it happens to the best of us. It happens to all of us. And for me, a lot of the times it will just be like I will just stare at a blank canvas and I have drawn, people so many times. I know I can draw it and it just looks like I am drawing a potato. And it's frustrating because it's like I know what I'm doing. I know how to draw this. Why is it not
You're like,
working
I'm a
right
fucking
now?
professional, brother.
And like it is, no matter what I'm doing, even if like I have a reference, like I give up, okay, I find a reference for a pose and I've got it right there and it still looks like a potato. That's when I'm like, you know what? I could beat my head off this tablet for the next several hours and get nowhere, or I just close the program and I go do something else.
Yeah.
I go outside and garden, I play a video game, I go play with my dogs. I gotta just get out of the headspace. It'll come back whenever it wants to. A lot of the times that can be triggered by stress or anxiety or, something's going on. So I just can't focus on the art. My brain is going elsewhere. And sometimes I just can't draw. But it's usually just like it just doesn't come out. It just feels like there's a blockage.
Yeah, it's just stuck. You're like, brain, no thoughts, head empty. I don't have to think.
And that's where I prescribe to the thought that like doing anything creative, really, music, art, production, anything, is exhaling. You are bringing that out of your body and into the world. And you can only breathe out so much. You can only exhale so much before you have to inhale and take stuff in. So go out in nature, see how light affects things and how, what would be cool to draw or put in your drawings. Go play video games and get inspired by something, get inspired by a style or like by a character that makes you want to draw them. Go read a book and want to put that out in like put a physical or a visual representation from something you've read, how you interpret it. Go watch a movie. Go take in and inhale some creativity so that you can keep it inside you and then exhale it out in a way that is unique to you.
That just might be the smartest explanation that I've ever heard in regards to writer's block, artist block, creative block in general. So thank you for that.
Oh, of course.
That is so. This is definitely going to get uploaded to some TikTok somewhere. Of that. So I hope that it inspires people because that's.
I really hope it does too.
Because that's
I've had
big brain energy.
too many people I have seen just give up because they've hit or like any sort of creative block, and it's just like, oh, I'm obviously not meant to do this, and it's just like, no, you've put so much out that you need to stop and take in. It's not forever. Like it sometimes can feel like forever, but it's not forever. It's a block, it's an obstacle, and there are many ways around it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you brute force it and you go through it, but sometimes you just got to find a way around it.
Or wait for it to clear itself.
Or yeah, sometimes you go do something else and you look back and it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And you just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and like a short thing for people, because I'm not here to assume anything, but if I had to guess, I think we technically operate under two different generations. So this is specifically speaking to people in my age range, because I'm only 22. Another thing that really helps is put down your fucking phone.
Yes.
There's a whole series that I watch, or there's a guy who I follow on TikTok, ironically enough, and every once in a while when I'm scrolling through stuff, one of his videos will come up, and the whole premise is you just need to like take a step back and just like slow down in your life a little bit, because sometimes you can just get overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that you have, or maybe you're not overwhelmed, but there's just a lot of things going on that you're keeping track of, and even if you think you're handling it well, that's whatever. If you just like take a moment, literally like 1 minute, and just kind of like slow down, take some deep breaths, and just focus on the physical space that exists around you, and try and kind of I can't really think of the right word, but just like solidify the fact that you are there in the moment instead of kind of just passively existing.
Absolutely.
That'll help you kind of get back into your right mindset to kind of start chugging along again and going ham.
Absolutely. Like we us human beings are not supposed to know what's going on in every corner of the world, what's going on with our friends and our loved ones at every second of their day. We're not built for that. You need to disconnect, go camping, go step outside and just stand in the sunlight. Get that vitamin D. Sometimes you need to be in the moment, and constantly being online is not like there. I don't listen to the news or anything anymore because of that. I was getting so overwhelmed with knowing all of the horrible things that were going on in the world that I just didn't want to be a part of anymore. Like, you need to just get off your phone, get off the computer, go do something
Go
else.
touch some fucking grass.
I have recently taken up gardening, and I love every minute of it, and it makes being able to come sit down on my computer a bit more rewarding in that, because I have done something else with my hand. Well, sometimes my hand doesn't really give me a choice in that, but I've gone and done something else. I have, I'm out in the world. I love drawing. I'm very much more of an organic artist. I'm so bad at like buildings and cars and stuff like that. But going out and seeing like different leaf shapes, or how, the sun goes through leaves, and the lighting that it takes, the different colors of leaves, they're not all the same color green and stuff like that. Like, it does benefit me in the end. Like, little things that I've never really paid attention to before. I draw a picture, I'm like, well, that probably wouldn't be that same green as the grass. I should probably fuck around with that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, go touch some grass. It's okay. Yeah. I get FOMO too. It's okay. In a week, you won't remember. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
You're all right.
Yeah. I gotta take a hard pivot to the second to last question.
Okay.
We were going a little too spiritual, a little too off there, so I got to take a quick pivot. Do you consider yourself to be like a generalist or a specialist when it comes to like styles or aesthetics? And if you think you're more of a specialist, what do you tend to specialize of, or what do you tend to specialize in terms of like color palette, art styles, depictions, anything like that?
Ooh. I like to think that I've been trying to get my fingers in as many different pies when it comes to art lately, but
it's like a health hazard. You're gonna get kicked out of the bakery.
Yeah, really, right? I like some cherry pie, some apple pie.
They're like, brother, be gone. We'll ban you from this restaurant. We'll call the cops if you keep putting your fucking hands on our pies. There's patrons sitting at the desk. Oh,
I used to be very stoic. That's not the right word, but very like a stickler for what I did. I always did the same thing. I always did the same kind of shading with the same kind of lighting, and that was kind of it. Something that has persisted is I am known for being able to do really nice glowy things, and I love glowy things. I love bioluminescence.
Ooh, that's fun.
That's why I have created a private or closed species that is almost literally made of bioluminescence. That is something that has stuck with me throughout my journey that I've only gotten better at, but I have branched out to be a bit more of a generalist when it comes to styles. I like to do paintings, I like to do like detailed line art, I like to do cell shading, I like to do sketches. And it's something that has been a bit of a struggle. Actually, I was talking with some friends cuz I don't like there are some artists where you go, okay, this person is known for, furries, muscly women, dommy mommy, like they have a type. That and when somebody finds their art, they know kind of what they're going to get, what they're going to expect, and if they have similar likes, it's a shoo-in. I have had the trouble that I like a lot of things. So I draw a lot of things, which can work with me in that there are people that like a wide variety of things like me, but there are also people that are like, I just like, I like furries and I don't really care to see elves and stuff. So that stuff doesn't really attract me, but I like your furry art. And they kind of float in and about. And there are people on the flip side of that too. And it's like, well, I like drawing them though. I don't want to stop doing one or the other, which has kind of bit me in the butt a little bit. And I've been trying to narrow it down, and
At least a tiny
I've
bit.
had no luck. I've had a tiny bit. I have now decided like non-human, which it counts. Anthros, they are non-human, but so are elves and demons. And I just put labels on.
You've only made your situation like 5% better.
Yeah. Oh, that I have had no luck in it. But I'm trying.
Fair enough.
I'm trying.
Interesting. So
yeah, that was something.
Yeah. So you used to be a specialist, and then you went almost too general, and now you're like, I'm trying to reel it back
and
in a
now
little
I
bit.
am way too open, and I have to reel it back in a lot.
That's funny. Well, we'll have to see where that journey takes you on how you decide you want to go about reeling it back in.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, could I do just furry work? And it's like, well, yeah, I could. I have the audience for it, but
I don't want to.
But I don't want to. Like with Maple, she's kind of in the middle. Little Neko, you got the ears and the tail, but she still got the human face, no muzzle.
It's very confusing.
It's like I like drawing that.
As far as I'm concerned, she's a character cosplaying as an animal. All right, I tell you
what.
mean,
but that's just that's the toe into the furry community when you're like, oh yeah, I like ears and tails, those are fine, and then it's just like, oh yeah, watch your step. It gets real deep from that point on.
It's like there's a direct pipeline between wearing the Razer headphones with the ears on them to becoming a furry.
It's like a gateway drug right there.
You spend $70 on those headphones or however much they are.
It's just like I had one OC, just kind of like Maple. She has Maple. I had one OC, and then my friends started making making their own species with their own world and their own lore, and it's like I want to get in on that. I like that. And I have my, I get one of those, and 34 OCs later.
What? 34?
Yeah, some are like D&D characters that I made, and it's just like, I like you. I'm going to keep you forever.
Yeah, I guess that's a little bit different. But
I have like a good number of characters that I have are from other friends' world building.
Yeah.
Like I'd say probably almost half of them. And I love that because I'm supporting another artist. I'm supporting their mind endeavors. I get to work with them and, within the realm of their world. And almost all of them, like we've traded. They have one of my species and I have one of their species.
Trading them like Pokemon cards.
It basically, but they range. Like so many are like considered furry. They're anthropomorphic something or other. Some of them are just straight up like Oni or demons of some kind. Like you can't. I have so many in the realm, like just in my OCs, it is so varied and fluid in what they are that I would have to give up some characters to, to focus that what I want to draw to make it a bit more like a bit more of a brand,
Yeah.
as it were.
And you're like, but I don't
And
want
it's
to.
like, yeah, these are mine. I love all of them like my children,
keeping them
and I
like
will
they are
not
my
give
children.
any of them away. I've tried. I've sat here and been like, I have 34. Even if I drew one a month, that's more than 2 years before I get through the roster.
And
Like, I
knowing
need to trim this down.
And knowing you in your time, you're going to somehow develop more characters.
Yeah, I have one on the way that I was just like, ooh, I got an idea, and I started drawing it out, and it was just like, I like this idea. I'm going to keep this idea, because usually I like a bit of it, and it's like, all right, I'll make it adoptable. Somebody else can give it time, but it's like, no, this one is mine.
Yeah,
This is my
I'm adding
thought.
this to my folder.
I'm creating this. This is mine.
Yeah, you gotta work on on reeling it back at least a little bit.
I've tried. Even my husband has tried being like, no adopts, no more spending money on characters. And then my brain went, I'm not spending money if it's an art trade.
If I made it myself, or yeah, exactly.
If we just happen to trade a character, then there's no money being spent. And it's just like, oh, well, here's 2 more. Look at you. You're so beautiful. Go on the shelf for now. I'll get to you eventually, I promise.
That's funny. Yeah, that basically answers that whole question. I only really have one more. Is there any other piece of information that you wanted to provide here for people to hear about, or anything?
To hear, I mean, I don't know. Is this like a self-promotion spot?
No, the self-promo is later, but I just didn't know if there was any other, if there was any other pieces of information that you thought were important to put in here for anybody.
I think it's that anybody, like, being an artist in any expanse, in any place, music, or whatever you want to do, it takes time, and I think that's really discouraging for people. Because even as an artist now, I want to do something, and when it doesn't turn out the way I want to do it, the way these other artists have done it, and it looks so good, that it's discouraging. But it just takes time, and that is the most frustrating thing to hear from other artists, that I know how frustrating it is to receive that as advice, but it is just practice. Just keep doing it. Eventually you will get there, and then you will get further than that, and it's going to be so good. But you have to invest in yourself, in the craft.
Yeah. Time is your biggest resource, my friends.
It is.
That's all she wrote. That's all the questions that I have. That is not quite the end of the recording, because there's a few more things I need to bring up. But I want to sincerely thank you for coming on here, because I think it's powerful that you were able to overcome your introverted nature to humor me on this.
It's very scary, but it's very fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. If there's one thing I want to do, and that's to be able to foster a healthy podcast environment, because the obvious joke is men will literally start a podcast before going to therapy. But I like doing this because I like hearing people say, talk about the things that they enjoy doing. And I think it's an admirable goal that a lot of people want to be a part of. People want to talk about what they like to talk about. And I'm glad that you could now be a part of that list, because this was a very enjoyable experience. It was very enjoyable.
It was for me too.
How you operate on a different scale. You're the second artist I've interviewed, and you operate kind of in a different sphere from where the other person operates, and I think that's interesting. So
everybody's art journey is completely unique.
Absolutely.
And we're all at different points in that journey, whether you're just starting or whether you've been doing it for 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, we're all at different points, and I'm a big believer in rising tide raises all boats. And the more we help each other, and the help pass on tips and tricks and stuff, it just makes us all grow as a whole.
Yeah. But if anybody wants to see how your progress is going, where can they find that? Where can they find your progress?
Well, my name on various places is TinyCactus Art. There is kind of a 18+ warning to go with it in a lot of senses.
Yeah, be careful.
Be careful.
Wait, yeah, no. I'm remembering now. We when me and Maple did this episode, she warned people. He was like, "Tiny Cactus is in the description, but be very careful if you go to that link." So I think the same thing applies here, obviously.
Like, with my Twitch will be nice and safe for work. That it will.
Otherwise, you'll get banned.
That will be good. Otherwise, I won't be on there anymore. But if you go to my Twitter, just a heads up, you will see things that are for adults only. You'll see a lot of it.
and you will also find things that even if you are an adult and you think you're prepared for them, you probably aren't. That was the situation that I ran into.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think I'm pretty vanilla, but I have heard otherwise. So, to each their own.
Yeah. So yeah, the only thing that I'm going to request is that you just send me all those links via the Discord DMs and I'll go upload them. And again, for like the third time, be very careful because I don't want to hear any of you motherfuckers coming at me or Cactus being like, why is there insert body part here? I'm going to be like, we warned you, man.
This is your warning. You will see body parts that usually you don't see. Well,
yeah. I like the implication of that, indicating that the people who see this have just never seen a human body before.
Have never looked down.
Have never. Nope. Well, that was going to go down a different road. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, all the links for Tiny Cactus will be in the description. If you're trying to look for me for whatever reason, I don't really know why you'd be doing that. No, I'm kidding. DJ Cereal Sauce on everything, literally everything. Not literally everything. You can look it up as one word, you can look it up with spaces, and you can look it up with underscores, and you will find me on some platform. And if you don't find me on that platform, I don't exist there. I'm on Spotify, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitch, I'm on YouTube again under a different channel, I'm under some more things. I have some people who are constantly with me who are also on those platforms. So the basic gist is go just check out all the links, be very careful, and I'm excited to see your Twitch debut, Cactus.
Hopefully soon.